A Missouri town just slammed the brakes on a $16 billion data center. And residents packed a senior center to celebrate the win. From a Florida county killing a $2 billion campus over water, to a Louisiana project ballooning past $50 billion. This is where America's AI build-out is colliding head-on with the people who live next door. The fights are no longer about technology. They're about who controls the land, the water, and the power bill. In Pacific, Missouri, a small city straddling Franklin and St. Louis counties, residents just scored a rare win against the AI machine. On August 5th, the city council voted to impose a 12-month hold on accepting any new data center proposals, buying time for a land use study, more public input, and updates to the city's zoning and comprehensive plan. After the vote, members of the Pacific Route Coalition packed the Tri-County Senior Center to celebrate. The stakes are enormous. Developer Beltline Energy has pitched a data center campus reportedly worth up to $16 billion. And two more projects, the 500-acre Crooked Creek and the 600-acre Diamond Farms site, remain in limbo. There's a catch, though. The Beltline proposal already on the table isn't covered by the freeze. That opposition is now spilling straight into the courtroom. That resistance is now hardening into lawsuits. In Sangamon County, Illinois, a group of residents from the small community of Waverly have sued the county and its board over the approval of a data center for Cyrus One. The plaintiffs, who live roughly a mile or less from the approved site, filed suit seeking to overturn the county's decision, arguing officials failed to properly account for the project's impact on their rural surroundings. It's part of a fast-growing wave of litigation across the country. In Louisa County, Virginia, a federal judge recently allowed a homeowner's private nuisance claim against an Amazon data center to move forward, a ruling legal experts say could open the door for neighbors everywhere. From Illinois cornfields to Virginia backyards, ordinary residents are discovering the courtroom may be their most powerful tool. And the reason these fights keep multiplying comes down to one number on your monthly bill. And that number is climbing, in large part because of who pays for the power these campuses demand. A new analysis highlighted by Forbes lays out the arcane rules quietly deciding whether AI data centers land on your electric bill. In the PJM region, which spans the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, data centers are projected to add roughly $70 a month to the average household bill by 2028. PJM's own market monitor has already documented about $13 billion in cost spread across ratepayers in just the first quarter of this year. The core danger is stranded infrastructure. Utilities building substations and transmission lines for speculative projects that may shrink or vanish. States are fighting back. 24 now have large load tariffs forcing data centers to cover their own costs. And Virginia just became the first state to tax data center electricity directly. Water tells the other half of the story. In Palm Beach County, Florida, water fears just sank a $2 billion project. After more than 12 hours of heated debate, county commissioners voted 5-1 to reject Project Tango, a sprawling AI data center proposed for rural Loxahatchee. The plan called for roughly 4 million square feet of development on 200 acres, drawing 600 megawatts of power. Right beside the Arden neighborhood and Saddleview Elementary School, water was the fatal flaw. The developer's own manager, Ernie Cox, pegged daily use at 5,000 gallons, while county staff projected 100,000 gallons of drinking water a day. A 20-fold gap. Commissioner Maria Sachs said the developers simply didn't know their own numbers. Now the county is drafting new noise, power, and water ordinances, with a moratorium hearing set for August 27. State lawmakers, meanwhile, are writing rules of their own. Yet even as communities dig in, the biggest projects keep getting bigger, and none loom larger than Meta's Hyperion supercluster in Richland Parish, Louisiana. Meta has now expanded the site to a staggering 5 gigawatts of computing capacity, pushing total investment past $50 billion, up from just $10 billion when it broke ground in December of 2024. Spanning 3,200 acres across the Holly Ridge community, the campus is being financed in part through a joint venture with Blue Owl Capital. To feed its appetite, Meta struck a deal with Utility Energy Louisiana for more than 5 gigawatts of new natural gas capacity plus up to 2.5 gigawatts of solar. Local businesses have already landed more than $1.6 billion in contracts. But as Fortune reported, the project has split the town in two. Legislators across the country are racing to respond. States are moving fast to catch up with that scale. In Colorado, a sweeping new law is about to take effect. The Data Center Development and Grid Modernization Act, enacted as Senate Bill 25-280, becomes operative on August 12. The measure tries to strike a delicate balance, encouraging responsible data center growth while shielding the grid and ordinary ratepayers from the fallout. It's part of a national surge. More than 300 data center bills have been introduced across roughly 30 states this year alone, as legislatures pivot from handing out tax incentives to writing hard rules on energy costs, water disclosure, and who bears the risk of speculative build-outs. Colorado now joins a growing roster of states, from Virginia to Oklahoma, rewriting the rulebook in real time. But regulation hasn't slowed the bulldozers. Construction is pressing forward at record pace. Nowhere is that clearer than in Wharton County, Texas, where Amazon Web Services has begun work on what could become the largest data center campus in the state. Known as Project Eagle and located near the small town of Bowling. The development spans roughly 2,700 acres and represents an estimated $1.2 billion investment. The plan calls for 4 identical buildings, each about 189,000 square feet and costing $300 million apiece, together totaling more than 750,000 square feet of compute. Construction was slated to begin in early August, with the first 3 buildings targeted for completion by January of 2027 and the 4th by that August for a rural stretch of southeast Texas. It's a billion-dollar bet on the AI era, arriving all at once. And behind every project this size sits an ocean of investor capital. Which brings us to the money quietly rewiring the entire industry. In one of the largest digital infrastructure deals ever struck, a consortium is acquiring aligned data centers in a transaction valued at roughly $40 billion. The buyers read like a who's who of the AI economy. BlackRock's global infrastructure partners, the Microsoft-backed MGX Fund, plus NVIDIA, Elon Musk's xAI, Temasek, and sovereign wealth from Kuwait. The deal underscores how server farms have become the hottest asset class on the planet. And the capital keeps flowing. Aligned alone recently completed a $1.2 billion securitization and closed a $2.5 billion credit facility to fund its expansion. Zoom out, and the 5 biggest hyperscalers are on track to spend some $650 billion this year. From a Missouri senior center to a $40 billion buyout, the question echoing across America is no longer whether this buildout can be stopped, but who will ultimately pay for it. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment. It helps us cover more of these stories.